My sister slept with my husband while I was 6 months pregnant and caring for his dying mother, and the way I exposed her left everyone speechless. My name is Morgan. I'm 32 years old, and 6 months ago, I was living what I thought was a blessed life, even though it was falling apart in ways I couldn't see yet. I was 6 months pregnant with my first baby, a girl. We were going to name her Lily. My husband Brett and I had been trying for 3 years to have a child, so when I finally got pregnant, it felt like a miracle. Like everything we'd gone through was worth it. The failed attempts, the negative pregnancy tests, the tears and disappointment month after month. This baby was our rainbow after the storm, but there was something else happening at the same time. Brett's mother, Patricia, had been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She had maybe 3 months left, maybe less. The doctors weren't hopeful. They'd given her the diagnosis on a Tuesday afternoon, and I'd been there when she received it. I watched this strong, vibrant woman crumble in that sterile doctor's office. I held her hand while Brett stood frozen in shock. Patricia lived 2 hours away, but Brett was an only child. There was no one else to help her. So I told Brett we should move her into our guest room, let her spend her final days surrounded by family, surrounded by love, not alone in that empty house where she'd lived with Brett's father before he passed away 10 years ago. I was the one who suggested it. Me. I'm the one who made the call. Brett was hesitant at first. He said it would be too much stress on me, especially with the pregnancy. He worried about my health, about the baby's health. He said we could hire a nurse, find a hospice facility, look at other options, but I insisted. Patricia had always been kind to me. She welcomed me into their family with open arms when Brett and I got married 5 years ago. She didn't do that judgmental thing some mothers-in-law do. She never made me feel like I wasn't good enough for her son. Instead, she treated me like the daughter she never had. She taught me family recipes. She showed me photo albums of Brett growing up. She told me stories about his childhood that made him blush and made me laugh. This was the least I could do, so we moved her in. I quit my job as a marketing coordinator to become her primary caregiver. We couldn't afford full-time care, and besides, I wanted to do this. I wanted Patricia to feel loved and cared for in her final months. Brett worked long hours as a financial consultant. He'd leave at 7 in the morning and wouldn't get back until 8 or 9 at night. Sometimes later, he said the company was going through a major restructuring. His clients were demanding. He had deadlines and presentations and meetings that couldn't be moved. That meant I was the one giving Patricia her medications. 8 different pills at various times throughout the day. I had a chart on the refrigerator to keep track. I was helping her to the bathroom, supporting her weight when she was too weak to walk on her own, making her meals, trying to find things she could keep down when the nausea from chemo hit, sitting with her during her chemotherapy appointments, holding a bucket when she got sick, rubbing her back, whispering that it would be okay even when we both knew it wouldn't be. I was reading to her when she was too weak to hold a book. Her favorite was Pride and Prejudice. We must have read it 3 times in those months. Sometimes she'd mouth the words along with me, the sentences so familiar they were etched in her memory, and I was doing all of this while 6 months pregnant. My back ached constantly from lifting Patricia, from bending over to help her. My feet were swollen to the point where I could only wear slippers. I was exhausted all the time, falling asleep in chairs, barely able to keep my eyes open past 8 in the evening. I had morning sickness that had never really gone away, so some days I was nauseous while taking care of someone else who was nauseous. It was a special kind of horrible, but I didn't complain. Not once. Not even when Patricia had accidents that I had to clean up. Not even when she woke me up at 3 in the morning because she was scared and needed someone to talk to. Not even when my own doctor warned me that I was under too much stress and needed to slow down, because this was family. This was what you did for family. You showed up. You sacrificed. You loved people even when it was hard. My sister Amber lived about 30 minutes away. She was 28, 4 years younger than me. Growing up, we'd been close. Best friends, really. We shared a room until I left for college. We told each other everything. Every crush. Every fear. Every dream. She was the maid of honor at my wedding, and she'd cried during her speech about how I was her hero. I was there when she graduated college with her degree in graphic design. We talked on the phone almost every day, even after we both moved out and started our own lives. When Patricia moved in, Amber started coming over more often. She said she wanted to help. She wanted to support me through this difficult time. She'd bring groceries, always remembering Patricia's favorite foods even when Patricia could barely eat them. She'd bring fresh flowers to brighten up the guest room. She'd sit with Patricia so I could take a nap, and I'd wake up to hear them talking and laughing softly together. She'd rub my feet while we watched television at night. She'd tell me I was doing an amazing job. She'd bring me prenatal vitamins when I forgot to pick up my prescription. She'd help me fold the endless loads of laundry that accumulated. She made me feel less alone in all of this. I thought she was being supportive. I thought she was being a good sister. The best sister. I was so stupid, so blind, so trusting. It started about 3 weeks after Patricia moved in. Small things I didn't notice at first because I was too exhausted, too focused, too overwhelmed to see what was right in front of me. Brett started working even later. He'd text me saying he had a big project due, a difficult client who needed extra attention, an emergency meeting that ran long. Could I save him a plate? He'd eat when he got home. Don't wait up. I believed him. Every single time. Why wouldn't I? We'd been married for 5 years. We'd been together for 8 years total. We'd weathered infertility together. We'd cried together when we thought we might never have children. He'd never given me a reason not to trust him. Not once in all those years. Amber started coming over when Brett was home. She'd arrive around dinner time and stay late into the evening. She'd stay for dinner, insisting she wanted to help clean up afterward. She'd laugh at Brett's jokes a little too loud, throwing her head back in that exaggerated way. She'd touch his arm when she talked to him. him, letting her hand linger just a moment too long. She'd sit next to him on the couch, closer than necessary, their legs almost touching, but I didn't see it. I was too focused on Patricia, whose condition was deteriorating daily. Too focused on my pregnancy and the constant doctor's appointments and the worry that something might go wrong. Too tired to notice the glances they exchanged when they thought I wasn't looking. Too trusting to imagine that my husband and my sister could betray me in such a fundamental way. There were other signs too, looking back. Brett stopped initiating intimacy with me. We'd always had a healthy relationship in that department, but suddenly he was too tired, too stressed, too worried about hurting the baby. I understood. I was exhausted too. And being 6 months pregnant didn't exactly make me feel attractive. I had stretch marks appearing daily. My face was puffy. I hadn't had a proper shower in days because I was too busy taking care of Patricia. He stopped asking me about my day. We'd always shared everything, but now our conversations became transactional. How's mom? Did she eat today? What did the doctor say? Nothing about me. Nothing about us. Nothing about the baby we were supposedly preparing for together. He started taking his phone with him everywhere, even to the bathroom, even when he was just going to the kitchen to get water. He'd sleep with it under his pillow, and when it would buzz with notifications, he'd quickly silence it and turn it face down without looking at it in front of me. But I explained it all away. He was stressed about his mother dying. He was worried about becoming a father. He was overwhelmed with work. These were normal reactions to abnormal circumstances. The day I found out was a Thursday. I remember because Patricia had a doctor's appointment that morning, a checkup to see how the cancer was progressing. Spoiler alert, it was progressing exactly as they'd predicted, aggressively, mercilessly. I'd taken her, helped her get dressed in real clothes instead of the nightgowns she'd been living in. I'd done her hair, helped her put on a little makeup because she said she wanted to look nice. We sat through the appointment where the doctor used a lot of medical terms that all meant the same thing. She was dying, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. They could only make her comfortable. I held her hand in the car on the way home. She cried quietly. I cried quietly. We didn't say much. What was there to say? I helped her back into bed when we got home. She was exhausted from the short trip. She fell asleep almost immediately, her breathing shallow and raspy. I was in the kitchen making myself some tea when I realized I'd left my phone charger in Brett's car. My phone was almost dead, down to 5%, and I was expecting a call from my obstetrician about some test results from my last appointment. They were checking my iron levels because I'd been feeling more tired than usual, even accounting for the pregnancy and the caregiving. Brett had come home for lunch that day, which was unusual. He said he had a break between meetings, a rare gap in his schedule. He wanted to check on his mom. He was upstairs in our bedroom, supposedly taking a work call. I could hear his muffled voice through the ceiling. I went out to his car to get my charger. It was a warm day, early spring, and the sun felt good on my skin. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd been outside for more than a few minutes. The car was unlocked, which was typical for Brett. He was always forgetting to lock it, and I was always nagging him about it. I opened the passenger door and looked around. No charger on the seat. I checked the floor. Nothing. Then I checked the glove compartment. And that's where I found it. A receipt from a hotel. The Riverside Inn, a boutique hotel about 20 minutes from our house. It was dated from 2 days ago. Tuesday night, my hands started shaking as I picked it up. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Could hear it in my ears. The world seemed to tilt slightly. There had to be an explanation. Maybe he'd booked a room for a client. Some out-of-town visitor who needed a place to stay. Maybe it was for a business meeting. Some companies used hotel conference rooms for important meetings. There was a reasonable explanation. There had to be. But the receipt showed checkout at 11 in the morning. The next morning, Wednesday morning, it was a room charge, not a conference room. Room 237 one night. Checked in at 8 Tuesday evening. Checked out at 11 Wednesday morning, Tuesday night. The night Brett said he had to work late. The night he texted me at 6 saying he had an emergency client meeting. The night he didn't get home until almost midnight looking exhausted and rumpled. But this receipt said he'd spent the night at this hotel. And if he'd checked out at 11 on Wednesday morning, that meant he'd been there all night and into the next day. I stood there in the driveway, staring at this piece of paper, my pregnant belly pressed against the car door. The sun was still shining. Birds were chirping. Everything looked normal, but my entire world was crumbling. I felt like I couldn't breathe, like someone had punched me in the stomach. My vision blurred. For a moment, I thought I might pass out. I went back inside, moving on autopilot. I was dizzy, nauseous in a way that had nothing to do with pregnancy. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the receipt. Maybe I should confront him, march upstairs right now and demand an explanation. Throw the receipt in his face and make him tell me the truth. But something stopped me. Some instinct. Some small voice in the back of my mind that said, wait, watch, learn more. Don't let him know you're suspicious. Don't give him a chance to hide the evidence. Don't let him prepare his lies. So I put the receipt in my pocket. I took a photo of it with my dying phone, and then I put it back exactly where I found it. I didn't say anything to Brett when he came downstairs 15 minutes later. I smiled at him like everything was normal, asked him how his mom seemed, told him I'd made lunch if he wanted some, kissed him goodbye when he left to go back to work. He had no idea. He kissed me back, said he loved me, said he'd try to be home by 7, and then he left. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I went upstairs to our bedroom, to our laptop. I logged into our banking account with shaking hands. I checked our credit card statements, going back through the past few months. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. Regular charges, gas, groceries, medical bills, but then I saw them. Hotel charges. 3 more hotel charges over the past month and a half. All from the Riverside Inn. All on nights Brett said he was working late. All for single night stays. February February 14th, Valentine's Day. The day Brett said he had to work late because of a major presentation the next morning. He'd felt terrible about it, he said. He'd promised to make it up to me. He never did. March 3rd, a Wednesday. The day Brett said he had a client dinner that ran late. March 18th, another late work night. Another lie. And now April 2nd, Tuesday, 2 days ago. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a mistake. This was ongoing. This was deliberate. This was 4 separate occasions that I knew about. And who knew how many more I hadn't discovered yet. I felt sick. Really sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I knelt there on the cold tile floor, my pregnant belly pressing against the toilet, and I heaved until there was nothing left. Until I was just dry heaving and sobbing. 4 times. 4 times he'd lied to me. 4 times he'd checked into a hotel instead of coming home to me and his dying mother. But who was he with? Was this a colleague? Some woman from work? A stranger he'd met somewhere? I cleaned myself up, splashed cold water on my face, looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red and puffy. My face was pale. I looked like someone who'd just had their world destroyed, because I had. I went to Brett's nightstand. I'd never snooped before. Never felt the need to. Our marriage was built on trust. Or so I thought. I opened the top drawer. Nothing unusual. Some papers, old receipts, a book he'd been reading. I opened the second drawer, and there, in the back, under some old magazines and a broken watch he'd been meaning to get fixed, I found it. A second phone. A cheap prepaid cell phone. The kind you buy at a convenience store. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. This was it. This was the evidence. People only had secret phones for one reason. I turned it on expecting a password, expecting to be locked out, but there was no password. It opened right up. And there, on the home screen, was a messaging app. One conversation. Just one. With someone saved as A, I opened the messages and started reading, and everything got so much worse. Can't wait to see you tonight. Thinking about you all day? Last night was incredible. I can't stop replaying it in my mind. I've never felt this way before. This feels so right. We have to be more careful. Morgan almost caught me looking at my phone yesterday. Morgan. My name. They were talking about me. Being careful around me. Hiding from me. I scrolled up, my heart pounding. The messages went back 2 months. 2 whole months. Since late February. Right after Patricia moved in. Right after I quit my job to take care of her. Right after my life became consumed with caregiving and preparing for our baby. I kept reading. I couldn't stop. Each message was like a knife in my heart, but I had to know. I had to see it all. Messages about where they'd meet, what they'd done, how they felt, their plans for the future. The Riverside Inn again? Room 237 is becoming our special place. I love how you touch me. Brett's never been this passionate with anyone else, has he? My vision blurred with tears. I wiped them away and kept reading. I feel guilty sometimes. Morgan's going through so much. Taking care of Patricia. Pregnant with the baby. But then I see you and I forget everything else. Don't feel guilty. What we have is special. Once everything settles down, we'll figure it out. We'll be together. Promise? I promise. After the baby comes. After mom passes. We'll tell her together. We'll start our life. Start their life. Their life together. After I gave birth. After Patricia died. After I served my purpose. I dropped the phone. My whole body was shaking. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. Brett was planning to leave me. He was going to let me take care of his dying mother. Let me give birth to his child. Let me go through all of this pain and sacrifice and exhaustion. And then he was going to leave me for whoever A was. I picked up the phone again, scrolling desperately for a name, a clue, anything that would tell me who this person was. And then I found it. In a message from 3 weeks ago. Amber, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever known. I can't believe I found you. I can't believe my wife's sister is the love of my life. Amber, my sister, my baby sister Amber. The world stopped. Everything stopped. Time, breathing, my heartbeat, everything. For a moment, I couldn't process it. Couldn't understand it. It was too impossible. Too unthinkable. Too monstrous, my sister. My sister Amber. The person I'd shared a room with growing up. The person I'd taught to ride a bike. The person who'd cried at my wedding. The person I talked to almost every single day. She'd been sleeping with my husband for 2 months. While I was pregnant. While I was caring for his dying mother. While I was at my most vulnerable. I don't remember the next few minutes very clearly. I think I screamed. I think I threw the phone against the wall. I think I sat on the bathroom floor and rocked back and forth, making sounds that didn't seem human. My sister. My baby sister. The person I trusted most in the world after Brett. All those times she came over to help. All those grocery runs and foot rubs and sympathetic looks. All those times she sat with Patricia so I could nap. Had she been texting Brett while I slept, making plans to meet him, counting down the minutes until she could see him again? All those dinners where she stayed late. All those times she laughed at his jokes and touched his arm. I'd seen it. I'd noticed it on some level. But I dismissed it as innocent, as sisterly affection for her brother-in-law. Because surely my sister wouldn't do that to me. But she had. She'd done exactly that. I sat on that bathroom floor until I heard Patricia calling for me from the guest room, her weak voice carrying down the hallway. She needed help. She needed me. I wiped my face, stood up on shaking legs, looked at myself in the mirror one more time. I looked destroyed, but I had to pull myself together. Patricia didn't deserve to see this. Patricia was innocent in all of this. I went to Patricia's room. She needed help getting to the bathroom. I helped her, supporting her weight, guiding her carefully. I smiled at her even though my face felt like it might crack from the effort. I made sure she was comfortable, fluffed her pillows, got her a fresh glass of water. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked, squinting at me with concerned eyes. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired. The baby's been kicking a lot today." She smiled weakly. "That's a good sign. Strong baby, like her mother." I nearly broke down right there, but I held it together. I smiled. I tucked her blankets around her, and I I left her to rest. And the whole time, even while I was taking care of Patricia, my mind was racing, planning, calculating. I could confront them. I could scream and cry and throw them both out of my life right now, today, this minute. But that felt too easy, too quick, too merciful. They didn't deserve mercy. They'd been lying to me for 2 months, sneaking around behind my back, making a fool of me, planning a future together while I sacrificed everything for them, while I took care of Brett's dying mother, while I carried his child and destroyed my body to bring his daughter into the world. No, they deserved something more, something worse. They deserved to be exposed, to have everyone know what they'd done, to face the consequences of their actions in the most public, humiliating way possible. I spent the rest of the afternoon planning, thinking, researching. I took photos of every single message on that phone, hundreds of them. I documented everything, the dates, the times, the content. I created a folder on my laptop labeled evidence. I organized everything meticulously. I went back to our banking website. I printed out copies of all the hotel charges, 4 hotel stays, over $1,500 spent on hotel rooms while I was at home taking care of his mother. I called the Riverside Inn, disguising my voice slightly. I pretended to be Brett's assistant. I said he'd lost his receipts and needed copies for tax purposes. Could they email them to me? They did. Within an hour, I had detailed receipts showing exact check-in and check-out times. Room 237 every single time. They had a favorite room. How romantic. The receipts even showed room service charges. Champagne, strawberries, chocolate-covered fruit, all the romantic cliches. I wanted to throw up again. But I kept working, kept documenting, because I needed irrefutable proof. I needed evidence that no one could deny or explain away. That night, Brett came home at his usual time, 8:30. He kissed my forehead like he always did. Asked how Patricia was doing, asked how I was feeling, asked if I needed anything. I told him everything was fine. I'd made dinner. I smiled. I acted like nothing had changed. He had no idea I knew. We ate dinner together. We watched television. We talked about baby names and nursery colors and all the normal things expecting couples talked about. And the whole time, I was looking at him and wondering how. How could he sit there and act so normal? How could he smile at me and kiss me and pretend to be excited about our baby when he was planning to leave us both? How could I have been so wrong about him? How could I have spent 8 years with someone and not known who they really were? That night, after Brett fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My daughter kicked inside me. Strong kicks. Healthy kicks. She had no idea the storm she was about to be born into. I made a promise to her then. A silent promise in the dark. I promised that I would protect her. That I would fight for her. That I would never let anyone hurt her the way her father was hurting me. And I would keep that promise. No matter what it took. The next morning, Friday, Amber called. She wanted to come over. She said she'd bring lunch. We could have a sister day. Maybe watch a movie. Just relax. Every fiber of my being wanted to scream at her. To tell her I knew. To ask her how she could do this to me. But I didn't. Instead, I told her that sounded wonderful. I even suggested she bring sandwiches from that deli we both loved. The one we'd been going to since we were kids. Perfect, she said. I'll be there at noon. Love you, sis. Love you too, I said. The words tasted like poison in my mouth. She arrived right at noon, just like she'd promised. She brought the sandwiches. She was wearing a new dress, something I hadn't seen before. A pretty blue sundress that showed off her figure. Her hair was done in loose waves. She was wearing makeup, which she usually didn't bother with for casual visits. She'd dressed up to come to my house. To sit with her pregnant sister, or maybe she'd dressed up because she'd seen Brett this morning. Maybe they'd met for a quick coffee before work. Maybe she'd kissed him goodbye in his car in some parking lot somewhere before coming here to smile in my face. She hugged me when she arrived. A long, tight hug. How are you feeling, Morgan? How's my little niece doing? My little niece. The baby she knew her lover was planning to abandon. She put her hand on my belly, felt Lily kick, smiled with what looked like genuine joy. She's so active. That's wonderful. I wanted to grab her hand and break her fingers. I wanted to claw her eyes out. I wanted to scream at her until my voice gave out, but I smiled instead. I swallowed down the rage and the hurt and the betrayal. She is. The doctor says she's very healthy. We sat in the kitchen. We ate our sandwiches. We talked about baby names and nursery colors and whether I was going to breastfeed. All the normal sister things we'd always talked about. And I studied her, watched her carefully, looked for any sign of guilt, of remorse, of conscience, but there was nothing. She seemed perfectly comfortable, perfectly normal. She complained about her job, about her boss who didn't appreciate her talent. She talked about a vacation she was planning to Miami with some friends from college. She asked if I needed help with anything around the house. She was a better actress than I'd given her credit for. Or maybe she just didn't feel guilty at all. Maybe this was easy for her. You know what I was thinking? Amber said, taking a sip of her iced tea. After the baby comes, after you've had some time to recover, maybe you and Brett should go on a vacation. Just the two of you. A second honeymoon. I could watch Lily for you. Give you guys a chance to reconnect. Remember why you fell in love in the first place. Reconnect. She was already planning to take him from me. Already imagining herself as the stepmother to my child. Already thinking about the future where she got my husband and my life. The audacity was breathtaking. That's so sweet of you, I said, forcing my voice to stay light. You're the best sister anyone could ask for. I'm so lucky to have you, she smiled, reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I love you, Morgan. You know that, right? You're my best friend, my hero. You always have been, her hero. The person she was actively betraying in the cruelest way possible. I squeezed back. I love you too, Amber. More than you know. And I did love her. That was the worst part. Even knowing what I knew, even hating what she'd done, some part of me still loved the little girl who used to follow me around, who used to crawl into my bed during during thunderstorms, who used to tell me all her secrets. But that little girl was gone. If she'd ever really existed at all. After Amber left, I sat at that kitchen table for a long time, just thinking, planning, refining my strategy. I had the evidence. I had proof. I could expose them right now if I wanted to, but I wanted them to understand what they'd done. I wanted them to feel a fraction of the pain I was feeling. I wanted them to know what it was like to have your entire world destroyed in an instant. So I kept gathering evidence. I kept documenting everything. I checked Brett's phone records through our cell phone provider. Pages and pages of calls and texts to Amber's number. At all hours. Early morning, late at night, during lunch breaks. Hundreds of calls. Thousands of texts. How had I not noticed? How had I been so blind? But I knew how. I'd been busy, overwhelmed, focused on Patricia and the baby. I'd trusted them both implicitly. It had never occurred to me to look for betrayal because I'd never imagined they were capable of it. I hired a private investigator. His name was Leonard, and he came highly recommended by a lawyer my mother knew. I told him everything. Showed him everything. He listened without judgment, taking notes, asking clarifying questions. I want photos, I said. Video if possible. Irrefutable evidence of them together. Can you do that? Yes, he said. It'll take a few days, maybe a week, but I'll get you what you need. He was true to his word. Within 5 days, he had a file for me. Photos of Brett and Amber together, entering the Riverside Inn hand in hand, kissing in Brett's car in a parking lot behind a shopping center, walking together on a trail I didn't recognize, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. In one photo, they were sitting at an outdoor cafe. Brett was leaning across the table, his hand covering Amber's. They were both smiling, looking at each other like they were the only two people in the world. They looked happy. They looked in love. And I looked at these photos in my kitchen, 7 months pregnant and exhausted from taking care of Brett's dying mother, and I felt something inside me break completely, but I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. I had to finish this. Patricia continued to decline. The cancer was spreading faster than anyone expected. She was in constant pain now, even with the morphine. She slept most of the time. When she was awake, she was confused, sometimes not recognizing where she was. I stayed by her side. I held her hand. I read to her even when I wasn't sure she could hear me. I talked to her about Lily, about how much I wished she could meet her granddaughter. Sometimes Patricia would squeeze my hand weakly. Sometimes a tear would roll down her cheek. She couldn't speak much anymore, but I think she understood. And through it all, Brett and Amber kept sneaking around, kept lying, kept planning their future. I documented every lie, every fake work excuse. Every time Amber came over and acted concerned about me while texting my husband when I left the room, the messages between them got more frequent, more explicit, more confident. Can't wait until this is over and we can be together openly, Amber texted. Soon, Brett replied. Just need to get through the next few months. Then we'll be free. Free. That's what I was to them. A prison, an obstacle, something to get through. Not a wife, not a sister, not a person with feelings, just something in their way. 3 weeks after I found out, Patricia took a significant turn for the worse. She stopped eating completely, stopped responding to us. The hospice nurse came and quietly told us it would be days now, maybe less than a week. Brett finally took time off work. He said he wanted to be with his mother in her final days. I wondered if he'd told Amber, if they'd had to postpone their plans, if she was disappointed. He spent hours sitting with Patricia, holding her hand, crying. He was devastated, genuinely, truly devastated. And despite everything, despite all the rage and hurt and betrayal, I felt a tiny moment of sympathy for him. He was losing his mother. That pain was real, regardless of what else he'd done. But then my phone buzzed with a notification. The security camera I'd secretly installed in the hallway, the one that showed the front door. I opened the app, and there was Amber, standing on our front porch. I could see her through the camera, checking her appearance in the window reflection, smoothing her hair, applying lipstick. She was putting on lipstick. To come to a house where a woman was dying, where her sister was exhausted and grieving, she was putting on lipstick. Or maybe she was putting on lipstick for Brett. Maybe this was her chance to be close to him without suspicion. Maybe while I was busy with Patricia, they could steal a moment together. A touch, a kiss, a whispered promise. The sympathy evaporated, replaced by cold, hard resolve. I let her in. She hugged me. She brought more flowers for Patricia's room, even though Patricia couldn't see them anymore. She offered to make dinner for all of us, and through it all, I watched. I saw the way she looked at Brett when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I saw the way he looked back. I saw the small, sad smile they shared, as if this tragedy was bringing them closer together. They were using his mother's death as an opportunity to bond, to share grief together, to find comfort in each other. It was obscene. Patricia died on a Wednesday night, peacefully in her sleep. Brett was holding one hand. I was holding the other. Amber had left an hour before, saying she had work early the next morning. I felt Patricia's hand go slack in mine, felt the moment her breathing stopped, watched Brett realize his mother was gone. He sobbed, deep gut-wrenching sobs. He laid his head on her chest and cried like a child, and I sat there, holding a dead woman's hand, 7 months pregnant, and felt absolutely nothing. I was numb, empty. I'd spent everything I had on caring for Patricia, and now that she was gone, there was just a vast emptiness where my emotions used to be. The hospice nurse came. She confirmed what we already knew. She made phone calls. The funeral home came and took Patricia's body away. And through it all, Brett and I moved like zombies, doing what needed to be done, not really speaking, not really connecting. That night, after everything was done, after Patricia's body was gone and the guest room was empty, Brett finally looked at me. Really looked at me. Thank you, he said. His voice was hoarse from crying. Thank you for everything you did for her. She loved you so much. You made her final months bearable. You gave her dignity and love. I'll never forget Forget that. I stared at him. This man who was thanking me while planning to leave me. This man who'd been sleeping with my sister while I cared for his dying mother. You're welcome, I said flatly. He reached for me, tried to pull me into a hug, but I stepped back. I'm tired, I said. I'm going to bed. I went upstairs and slept in the guest room. What used to be Patricia's room? I couldn't sleep in our bed. Not anymore. Not with him. If he noticed, he didn't say anything. We made the funeral arrangements together over the next few days. Brett was hollow with grief. He barely spoke, barely ate. He'd lost his mother, the woman who raised him, the person who'd loved him unconditionally his entire life. His phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from work, but I knew better. I knew it was Amber, comforting him, telling him she loved him, promising him they'd get through this together. The funeral was on Saturday. It was a small service just like Patricia had wanted. Nothing big or elaborate. She'd been a private person, and she wanted a private goodbye. About 40 people came. Patricia's friends from her church, her book club members, some neighbors from her old neighborhood, Brett's co-workers, our friends, family. Amber was there, of course. She sat in the back during the service. She wore a black dress, somber and appropriate. She cried during the eulogy, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. I watched her from the front row, watched her cry for a woman who, let's be honest, she barely knew. Patricia liked Amber well enough, but they weren't close. These weren't tears of genuine grief. These were performative tears, sister solidarity tears. Look at me being supportive tears. After the service, during the receiving line, Amber hugged me. I'm so sorry, Morgan, she whispered. Patricia was such a wonderful woman. If you need anything at all, I'm here for you. Thank you, I said, my voice mechanical. Then she hugged Brett, and the hug lasted too long. Way too long. She held him tight, her hands rubbing his back. He closed his eyes and leaned into her, his face buried in her neck. People probably thought he was just grieving, just taking comfort where he could find it, just accepting support from his sister-in-law in a moment of profound loss. I knew better. After the funeral, we had a small gathering at our house. About 30 people. Patricia's closest friends, Brett's family, our neighbors. People filled the house. They brought food, casseroles, and desserts and sandwich platters. They talked in hushed tones. They shared memories of Patricia. They told Brett how sorry they were for his loss, and everyone kept telling me how strong I was, how amazing I was for taking care of Patricia until the end, how lucky Brett was to have me, how I was going to be such a wonderful mother, how Lily was blessed to have me. Amber nodded along with all of it. She's incredible, she told people. My sister is the strongest person I know. I don't know how she does it. She squeezed my shoulder as she said it, smiling at me with what looked like genuine pride and affection. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. The gathering wound down slowly. People left in small groups, giving final hugs, promising to check in, offering help if we needed anything. By 7 in the evening, most people were gone. Just a few stragglers remained, helping clean up, putting food away, washing dishes. By 8, it was down to just Brett, me, and Amber. I can stay and help finish cleaning, Amber offered. You two must be exhausted. That would be great, Brett said immediately. He looked at her. Their eyes met for just a second, but I saw it. I saw everything now. The last few people left. And then it was just the three of us in the house. The house that still smelled like funeral flowers and other people's casseroles. The house that felt empty without Patricia, even though she'd only lived here for a few months. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the quiet, I have something I wanted to show both of you. They looked at me. Amber's expression was curious. Brett's was confused, still dazed with grief. What is it? Amber asked. It's in the living room, I said. Come on, sit down. I led them into the living room. Earlier that morning, before the funeral, I'd set up my laptop on the coffee table. I'd loaded the slideshow. I'd prepared everything. While Brett was getting dressed and Amber was on her way over, I'd made everything ready. Sit on the couch, I said. They sat, side by side but not touching. Brett looked exhausted, his tie loosened, his face drawn. Amber looked perfect, her makeup still flawless despite the long day. I sat across from them in the armchair, the same chair Patricia used to sit in when she was strong enough to come out to the living room. Before the cancer made her too weak to walk, I opened my laptop. I wanted to share some memories of Patricia, I said, my voice steady, calm, almost pleasant. I made a little video, some photos, some videos I took during her last few weeks. I thought it might be nice to watch together, to remember her. Brett's face crumpled slightly, his eyes filled with fresh tears. Morgan, that's so thoughtful. Thank you, really. Of course, I said. Anything for family. Family is everything, right? I looked directly at Amber as I said it. She nodded, smiling softly. Absolutely. Family is everything. I'm glad we agree, I said. I pressed play, but it wasn't a memorial video. The first image that appeared on the screen was a text message. Brett's words in a green bubble. I can't wait to taste you again. I'm counting the minutes until I can have you. Amber's response in gray. Come over during lunch tomorrow. Morgan will be at Patricia's doctor appointment. We'll have at least 2 hours. The color drained from Brett's face. Amber gasped audibly, her hand flying to her mouth. What is this? Brett said, but his voice was weak. He already knew. Keep watching, I said. My voice was calm, so calm. Like I was narrating a nature documentary, not destroying 2 lives. The slideshow advanced automatically. Every 5 seconds, a new screenshot appeared, each one more damning than the last. Messages about where they'd meet, what they'd done, how it felt, how they couldn't wait to be together permanently. We have to be more careful. Morgan almost caught me texting you last night. I know. I hate lying to her, but what we have is too special to give up. Soon we won't have to lie anymore. Soon we'll be together. I love you, Amber. I never thought I could feel this way. I love you too, Brett. You're everything I've ever wanted. I'd organized the messages chronologically. The slideshow showed the progression of their affair, how it started started with innocent-seeming texts, how it escalated, how they fell in love, or what they thought was love. Morgan, Amber started, her voice shaking. Shh, I said, holding up a hand. We're not done yet. The text messages continued. Then came the hotel receipts. The Riverside Inn, room 237, 4 separate dates displayed in stark black and white. February 14th, Valentine's Day, March. 3rd March, 18th, April 2nd, each receipt showed the same pattern. Check-in around 8 p.m., check-out around 11 a.m. the next morning. Room service charges for champagne and strawberries. Then came the photos. The private investigator had done excellent work. The photos were high quality, clear, undeniable. Brett and Amber entering the hotel, their fingers intertwined. Brett's arm around Amber's waist as they walked to his car. The two of them kissing in his front seat, his hand tangled in her hair, her hand on his chest. A photo of them at a cafe, looking at each other like lovers do. Another of them on a walking trail, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against him. In one particularly damning photo, they were leaving the hotel. It was morning, probably around 10 a.m. based on the shadows. Brett was carrying what looked like an overnight bag. Amber was wearing the same clothes as the night before. They were holding hands, smiling, looking satisfied and happy. The slideshow continued relentlessly. Every piece of evidence I'd gathered over the past 6 weeks. All of it displayed in excruciating detail. Phone records showing hundreds of calls between Brett and Amber. Time-stamped photos. Security footage from the hotel parking lot that I'd requested and received. Everything. Brett had his head in his hands. His shoulders were shaking. I couldn't tell if he was crying or just trying to disappear. Amber was crying openly now. Tears streaming down her perfect face, ruining her perfect makeup. Her hands were trembling. She kept shaking her head, like she could deny what was right there on the screen. The slideshow lasted 20 minutes. 20 minutes of irrefutable evidence. 20 minutes of every lie, every betrayal, every moment of their affair displayed in painful clarity. When it finally ended, the screen went black. The room was silent except for Amber's quiet sobs and Brett's ragged breathing. I closed the laptop. How long have you known? Brett finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. 6 weeks, I said. I found your phone 6 weeks ago. The day after one of your hotel visits. I've known for 6 weeks. 6 weeks? Amber's voice was high and strained. You've known for 6 weeks and you didn't say anything? You just, what? Watched us? What was I supposed to say? I asked. My voice was still eerily calm. Should I have confronted you while I was 7 months pregnant? While I was taking care of Brett's dying mother? While I was exhausted and vulnerable and completely dependent on you both? We didn't mean, Brett started. Didn't mean what? I interrupted. Didn't mean to fall in love? Didn't mean for me to find out? Didn't mean to completely destroy my life? He had no answer. I turned to Amber, who was still crying. You, my sister, my best friend since childhood, the person I shared everything with. How could you? I didn't mean for it to happen, she sobbed. It just did. We fell in love, Morgan. Neither of us planned it. You fell in love, I repeated slowly, with my husband, while I was pregnant with his baby, while I was caring for his dying mother. You just couldn't help yourself, is that it? Your love was just too strong? Too special? Too important to resist? She said nothing, just cried harder. Do you know what I was doing while you were sleeping with my husband? I asked, my voice getting harder now, the calm facade starting to crack. I was giving his mother her medication. I was helping her to the bathroom. I was holding her hair while she vomited from chemotherapy. I was sitting with her at 3 a.m. when she was scared and in pain. I was sacrificing my health, my comfort, my pregnancy, everything for his family, and he was fucking my sister. Morgan, please. Brett reached for me. I stood up abruptly, moving away from his hand. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. He pulled back, looking shocked. Good. Let him be shocked. Let him finally feel something. I have another video to show you, I said. I opened my laptop again. No, please, Amber whimpered. Please, Morgan, we get it. We understand. We're sorry. You're sorry, I said flatly. You're sorry you got caught, but this video isn't for you. It's for everyone else. I turned the laptop around to face them. On the screen was my email, composed and ready to send. The recipient list was long, very long. Brett's entire family, all our mutual friends, his coworkers and bosses, Amber's friends, our extended family, Patricia's friends, everyone who'd been at the funeral, everyone who'd told me how strong I was and how lucky Brett was to have me. And attached to the email was a file, a video file, the same slideshow they'd just watched. You wouldn't, Brett said, his voice filled with horror. Why wouldn't I asked. You destroyed my marriage, my family, my trust. Why shouldn't everyone know what you did? Think about Lily, Amber said desperately. Think about your daughter. Do you want her to grow up knowing this? Do you want this to be public? Lily will grow up knowing the truth, I said coldly. That her father is a liar and a cheat. That her aunt is a backstabbing betrayer. But at least she'll know. At least she won't be fooled the way I was. Morgan, please, Brett was begging now. Please don't do this. We made a mistake. A terrible mistake, but don't destroy our lives. Don't make this public. Think about my career. About Amber's job. About our families. Your career? I asked incredulously. Your career? You're worried about your career right now? He means, Amber started. I know what he means, I snapped. He means he doesn't want people to know what kind of person he really is. He doesn't want to face consequences for his actions. He wants to keep his reputation intact. Keep his comfortable life. Keep pretending to be a good person. I looked at both of them. Really looked at them. Saw the fear in their eyes. The panic. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No joy. Not even anger anymore. Just cold, empty nothing. Get out, I said quietly. What? Brett said. Get out of my house, I said louder now. Both of you. Get out now. Morgan, this is my house too, Brett said. You can't just... I pulled a folded paper from my pocket. Actually, I can. This is a restraining order. It was issued yesterday. You're not allowed within 500 feet of me. me. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. Brett stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. A restraining order? On what grounds? Emotional abuse, I said. My lawyer was very interested in the evidence I provided. Apparently, conducting an affair with your pregnant wife's sister while she cares for your dying mother constitutes a clear pattern of emotional abuse and manipulation, especially given my vulnerable condition, the judge agreed. I'd met with a lawyer 3 weeks ago. A woman named Margaret who specialized in family law and had a reputation for being ruthless. She'd looked at my evidence with sharp, intelligent eyes. This is one of the most clear-cut cases I've ever seen, she'd said. You'll get everything you want. Custody, the house, a favorable division of assets. Everything. She'd filed for the restraining order immediately, and the judge, a woman in her 50s with grown children of her own, had granted it the same day. You're throwing me out of my own house? Brett's voice was rising. The night of my mother's funeral? Yes, I said simply. You can stay at Amber's place. I'm sure she'll be happy to have you. It's what you both wanted anyway, right? To be together? Brett's face went from pale to red. This is insane. You're being unreasonable. We can talk about this. We can work through this. Work through this? I laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. There's nothing to work through, Brett. Our marriage is over. You ended it the moment you put your hands on my sister. Morgan, please. Amber stood up, taking a step toward me. Can we just talk about this? Sisters should be able to talk. We're not sisters anymore, I said, and my voice was like ice. You stopped being my sister when you started sleeping with my husband? Now you're just some woman who betrayed me. Just another stranger. Amber flinched like I'd slapped her. Don't say that, please. You're my best friend. You're everything to me. If I was everything to you, you wouldn't have done this, I said. Now get out, both of you, before I call the police. They looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Brett stood up slowly. Fine, he said. His voice was flat now. I'll leave. But this isn't over, Morgan. We're still married. You can't just kick me out forever. Watch me, I said. He grabbed his wallet and keys from the table by the door. Amber grabbed her purse, her movements jerky and uncoordinated, like a puppet with tangled strings. They walked toward the front door. Brett paused with his hand on the doorknob, looking back at me one last time. I loved my mother, he said, and I love our daughter. Whatever you think of me, know that those things are true. You loved your mother, I agreed, but you loved her so much that you let me take care of her while you screwed around. You loved her so much that you couldn't even be bothered to spend time with her in her final months. Some love. He had nothing to say to that. He opened the door and walked out into the night. Amber lingered for a moment. Morgan, go, I said. She went. I closed the door behind them, locked it, the deadbolt, the chain, everything. And then I stood there, my hand still on the door, and I waited for the tears, waited for the breakdown, waited for the emotional collapse that must surely be coming, but it didn't come. Instead, I felt relief. The weight of their betrayal had been crushing me for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of pretending everything was fine. 6 weeks of smiling and acting normal while my heart was breaking. 6 weeks of knowing the truth but having to play along with their lies. Now it was over. Now they knew that I knew. Now everyone would know. I didn't have to pretend anymore. I walked back to the living room, sat down on the couch where they'd been sitting, looked at the laptop screen with the unsent email still displayed. My finger hovered over the send button. One click. That's all it would take. One click and everyone would know. Their lives would be destroyed. Their reputations ruined. Everything they'd built would come crashing down. I thought about it for a long time. Then I thought about Lily, my daughter who wasn't born yet but who already deserved better than all of this. Did I want her first Google search of her father's name to bring up this scandal? Did I want her childhood to be defined by this drama? I thought about Patricia, who died just hours ago, who'd loved her son despite his flaws, who'd believed until her last breath that Brett and I had a good marriage. Did I want her memory tainted by this public scandal? And I thought about myself, about what I wanted, about what would actually make me feel better. Destroying them publicly might feel good in the moment, but it wouldn't change what happened. It wouldn't unbreak my heart. It wouldn't make me trust again. What I really wanted was to move on, to rebuild, to create a new life for Lily and me, a life without Brett and Amber, a life where we were free of their toxicity. I moved my finger away from the send button, deleted the email, closed the laptop, let them sweat, let them wonder when the bomb would drop, let them live in fear for a while, but I didn't need to send it. I had more important things to do than revenge. I had a daughter to prepare for, a life to rebuild, a future to create. That night, I slept on the couch in the living room. I couldn't go upstairs to the bedroom I'd shared with Brett. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but I slept. For the first time in weeks, I actually slept. Deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was full of missed calls and messages. Brett had called 15 times, left voicemails begging me to talk to him, to reconsider, to give him another chance. Amber had sent dozens of texts, all variations on the same theme. She was sorry, she loved me, she never meant to hurt me. Could we please just talk? My mother had called. She'd left a message. Morgan, honey, Amber called me hysterical last night. She said you kicked her and Brett out. She said you accused them of having an affair. She says you've gotten things confused, that you're under a lot of stress and maybe not thinking clearly. Call me back. We need to talk about this. So Amber had already started her campaign, playing the victim, trying to make me look crazy, trying to get our mother on her side. I called my mother back. She answered on the first ring. Morgan? Oh, honey, thank God. Amber is beside herself. She says, it's true, I interrupted. Everything I told them is true. Brett has been having an affair with Amber for over 2 months. I have proof, Mom. Text messages, hotel receipts, photographs. They've been sleeping together since March. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, oh my God. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. Oh my God, Morgan. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. I've known for 6 weeks. I've been gathering evidence. I have everything documented. There's no question. They did this. More silence. Then I heard a sound I'd never heard before. My mother crying. Really crying. Deep, wrenching sobs. Mom? I said, alarmed despite everything. I'm so sorry, she gasped out between sobs. I'm so sorry, baby. I should have. When Amber called, I should have believed you immediately. I should have known you wouldn't lie about something like this. I'm so sorry. It's okay, I said, surprised to find that I meant it. She lied to you. They've been lying to everyone. How could she? My mother's voice was anguished now. Your own sister. While you were pregnant. While you were taking care of Patricia. How could she do that to you? I don't know, Mom, I said honestly. I really don't know. I'm coming up there, my mother said, her voice firm despite the tears. I'm getting on the next flight. You shouldn't be alone right now. You're pregnant and you just lost your mother-in-law and now this. You need family around you? Real family. You don't have to. I started. I'm coming, she said. No arguments. I'll text you my flight information. I love you, sweetheart, so much. I love you too, Mom, I said. She arrived that evening. She took one look at me and burst into tears again. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my belly, and held me while I finally cried. Really cried. All the tears I'd been holding back for 6 weeks came pouring out. We sat on the couch together, my mother holding me like I was a child again, and I told her everything, every detail, every discovery, every moment of the past 6 weeks. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. What do you want to do? She finally asked. What do you mean? I mean, what do you want? Divorce? Custody arrangements? Do you want to press charges for anything? Expose them publicly? What do you want, Morgan? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I want a divorce, I said slowly. I want full custody of Lily. I want the house. And I want them out of my life. Completely. Forever. Then that's what we'll do, my mother said. My mother is a retired lawyer. She practiced family law for 30 years before retiring at 65. She knew every good divorce attorney in the state. She got me an appointment with Margaret, the lawyer I'd already been working with for the next morning. We met in her office, a sleek space with a view of the city. Margaret looked at all my evidence again, this time with my mother present. She asked clarifying questions, took notes, nodded thoughtfully. This is one of the strongest cases I've seen, she said finally. With this evidence, you'll get everything you're asking for. Full custody, the house, a favorable division of assets, child support, everything. What about the affair? My mother asked. Can we use that? Absolutely, Margaret said. While adultery itself isn't grounds for custody denial in this state, the circumstances surrounding it certainly are. He conducted an affair during a time when his wife was extremely vulnerable. She was pregnant and acting as primary caregiver for his dying mother. That speaks to character, to judgment, to his ability to prioritize his child's well-being. Any judge will take that into consideration. She filed the divorce papers that week. Brett was served at his office. He called me immediately, furious. You can't do this, he yelled into the phone. We need to talk about this. We need counseling. We can work through this. We're done talking, I said calmly. From now on, all communication goes through my lawyer. Goodbye, Brett. I hung up. He called back 17 times. I blocked his number. He hired his own lawyer, of course. Some expensive guy who wore $1,000 suits and had commercials on TV. He filed motions. He claimed I was being unreasonable, that he wanted to be involved in Lily's life, that he deserved half of everything, that the affair was irrelevant to the divorce proceedings. But when Margaret presented our evidence in court, his case fell apart like wet paper. The judge was a woman named Linda Torres. She was in her 50s, had been on the bench for 20 years, and had a reputation for being tough but fair. She looked at the evidence, the text messages, the hotel receipts, the photographs, the timeline showing that Brett had been having an affair during his mother's final months, while his wife was pregnant and serving as his mother's primary caregiver. Judge Torres's expression grew harder with each piece of evidence. By the end, she was looking at Brett with undisguised disgust. Mr. Harris, she said, her voice cold, you conducted an affair with your wife's sister while she was 7 months pregnant and caring for your dying mother. Is that correct? Brett's lawyer tried to object. Your Honor, I don't see how this is relevant to. I'll decide what's relevant. Judge Torres cut him off sharply. Answer the question, Mr. Harris. Brett, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him, nodded miserably. Yes, Your Honor. And you believe, Judge Torres continued, that despite this behavior, despite this profound betrayal of trust, despite this complete lack of judgment and character, you should receive equal custody of your infant daughter? I want to be in my daughter's life, Brett said, his voice shaking. I made a mistake, but I love my child. You made a series of choices, Judge Torres corrected him. Not a mistake. Choices. You chose to pursue an affair. You chose to lie to your wife. You chose to sneak around behind her back while she sacrificed her health and well-being for your family. Those were choices, and choices have consequences. The gavel came down. I got everything. Full physical custody of Lily. Brett was granted supervised visitation once a week for 2 hours. That was it. I got the house. I got our savings account. I got the car. Brett was ordered to pay substantial child support, enough that I could afford to stay home with Lily for her first year if I wanted to. He was also ordered to cover all her medical expenses, all her future educational expenses, everything. His lawyer looked stunned. Brett looked devastated, but Judge Torres wasn't done. Mr. Harris, she said, I want you to understand something. The purpose of custody arrangements is to serve the best interests of the child. In this case, your daughter's best interests are served by having minimal contact with you until she's old enough to understand the choices you made and decide for herself what relationship she wants with you. For now, you'll have your supervised visits. But if you miss even one, if you're late even once, if I hear that you've violated any terms of this agreement, I'll revoke your visitation entirely. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Brett whispered. Good. This court is adjourned. I walked out of that courtroom with my mother beside me. I didn't look back at Brett. I didn't need to. That chapter of my life was over. Brett moved in with Amber. They got a small apartment across town, living the life they'd planned, being together like they'd wanted, but I made sure everyone knew why. I didn't send the mass email. I didn't need to. Instead, I had quiet conversations with key people. Patricia's sister, Brett's cousins, our mutual friends, people who'd been at the funeral, people who'd praised me for taking care of Patricia. I showed them the evidence. Not gloating, not emotional, just factual. This is what was happening while I took care of Patricia, I'd say. I thought you should know. And people talked. Of course they did. This was too juicy not to talk about. The story spread through our social circle like wildfire. Within 2 weeks, everyone knew. Brett started losing clients. His reputation in the financial sector was destroyed. No one wanted to work with someone who'd cheated on his pregnant wife. It spoke to character, to trustworthiness. Would you trust your money to a man like that? His bosses at the firm asked him to resign, suggested it would be better for everyone if he found opportunities elsewhere. They didn't fire him outright, but they made it clear he had no future there. Amber lost friends. Our extended family cut her off completely. Our mother refused to speak to her. Our aunts and uncles and cousins all sided with me. At family gatherings, Amber's name became taboo. She simply stopped existing as far as our family was concerned. Amber lost her job too. Someone at her design company saw the slideshow that I'd shared with a few key people. It spread through her office within days. The company asked her to resign. They said her personal situation was creating a toxic work environment. They'd wanted to be together. They got their wish, but they got it as social pariahs, as the people everyone gossiped about, as cautionary tales. Did you hear what they did to Morgan? People would whisper, while she was pregnant and taking care of his dying mother. Can you imagine? They tried to weather it, tried to start over, but everywhere they went in our city, people knew. People judged. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Amber tried to move back to our hometown, but the story had reached there too. Our mother had told our aunts, who told their friends, who told their daughters, who posted on social media. The story spread. Amber found that bridges, once burned, are very difficult to rebuild. I gave birth to Lily 3 months after the divorce was finalized. My mother was with me in the delivery room. Brett was notified as required by the custody agreement, but he wasn't allowed at the hospital. Lily was born on a Tuesday morning in July, 7 pounds, 6 ounces. She had dark hair like mine, blue eyes like Brett's, and the most perfect little face I'd ever seen. When they placed her in my arms for the first time, I felt something shift inside me, something fundamental. All the pain and anger and betrayal didn't disappear, but it became smaller, less important, because I was holding this tiny, perfect human who depended on me, who needed me to be strong, and I made her a promise. Lying there in that hospital bed, exhausted and sore, but happier than I'd been in months, I promised her that I would protect her, that I would raise her to be strong and independent, that I would never let anyone hurt her the way I'd been hurt, that she would grow up knowing her worth, knowing she deserved better than liars and cheaters, knowing she should never, ever accept less than she deserved. Brett came to see her 3 days later, a supervised visit at my mother's house. He held Lily and cried. He told her he was sorry, that he'd made mistakes but he loved her, that he wanted to be a good father. I stood in the doorway and watched with empty eyes. I felt nothing for him. No hatred, no anger. Not anymore. Just a cold, complete indifference. When his 2 hours were up, my mother gently took Lily from his arms. Brett looked at me, his eyes pleading. Morgan, he said, can we talk, please? No, I said simply. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. I destroyed everything. I lost you. I lost my mom. I lost my daughter. I lost everything. And I know it's my fault. I know I did this. But please, please give me a chance to be a father to her. You have your supervised visits, I said. That's all you get. That's all you deserve. She deserves a father, he said desperately. She deserves a father who's trustworthy, I corrected. A father with integrity. A father who keeps his promises. You're not that father. But you can be in her life for 2 hours a week. That's more than you deserve, honestly. He had no response to that. Amber tried to reach out several times over the next few months. She sent letters to my mother's house, knowing I wouldn't open anything from her at my own address. She sent emails that I deleted without reading. She tried calling from different numbers, but I recognized her voice immediately and hung up. She showed up at my house once when Lily was 3 months old. I saw her through the window, standing on my porch, holding a gift bag and flowers. I called the police. They arrived within minutes. Explained to her that she was violating the restraining order, that she needed to leave immediately, that if she came back, she'd be arrested. I watched from the window as she pleaded with the officers, as she cried. As she finally got in her car and drove away, the gift bag and flowers stayed on my porch. I threw them in the trash without opening them. 6 months after Lily was born, I heard through friends that Brett and Amber had broken up. Apparently, the reality of their relationship didn't match the fantasy they'd built. When they had to face each other every day, without the excitement of sneaking around, without the thrill of forbidden love, they realized they didn't actually work, or maybe they just couldn't handle being social outcasts together. Couldn't handle the judgment and the whispers and the lost jobs and friendships. Either way, it was over. Brett moved to Arizona. He said he needed a fresh start, somewhere people didn't know his story. He still paid child support. He still had his weekly supervised visits, now done through video calls since he was out of state. But Lily didn't know him. To her, he was just a face on a screen, a stranger who called every Sunday and tried to read her stories through a computer. Not a dad, just Brett, some guy mommy talked to sometimes. Amber moved move to California, Los Angeles. She said she wanted to work in entertainment design. But really, I think she just wanted to go somewhere no one knew what she'd done. Somewhere she could reinvent herself. Our mother still wouldn't speak to her. None of our family would. Amber was effectively erased from our family tree. I didn't feel bad about that. Not even a little bit. A year passed. Then another. Lily grew. She learned to roll over, then sit up, then crawl, then walk. She learned to say mama and grandma and dog. My mother had gotten her a puppy for her first birthday, and Lily loved that dog more than anything. I went back to work when Lily turned 1. I'd kept in touch with my old company, and they were happy to have me back. I worked from home 3 days a week, went into the office 2 days. My mother helped with childcare. We built a life together, the 3 of us. 4, counting the dog. It was a good life. Peaceful, quiet, safe. I dated occasionally. Nothing serious. I wasn't ready for serious. Maybe I'd never be ready. But I went on a few dates here and there, just to prove to myself that I could. That I wasn't completely broken. I found a good therapist. We worked through the betrayal, the trust issues, the anger. Slowly, painfully, I started to heal, not completely. Maybe you never heal completely from something like that, but enough. Enough to function. Enough to be a good mother. Enough to build a life. Lily's second birthday was in July. We had a party at my mother's house. All of Lily's little friends from her playgroup. My coworkers, my friends. People who supported me. People who loved us. Brett called that morning to wish Lily happy birthday. She took the phone and babbled at him for about 30 seconds before getting bored and wandering off to play with her toys. He tried to ask her questions, but she wasn't interested. She doesn't really know who I am, he said quietly, more to himself than to me. No, I agreed. She doesn't. Is there any chance? He trailed off. Any chance of what? I asked. Of more time. Of me being more involved. She's my daughter, Morgan. I love her. You love her, I said. But you didn't love her enough to be faithful to her mother. You didn't love her enough to stay when things got hard. You made your choices, Brett. These are the consequences. He was quiet for a long moment. I think about it every day, he finally said. About what I threw away. About the life we could have had. About watching my daughter grow up instead of watching through a screen. Good, I said, and I hung up. 2 years after I kicked them out, on a random Tuesday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lily was at preschool. I was working from home on a conference call, but I put myself on mute to answer the door. A woman stood there. She looked to be in her early 30s, professional, well-dressed, but nervous. Her hands were shaking slightly. Can I help you? I asked politely. Are you Morgan Harris? She asked. Then she corrected herself. I'm sorry, Morgan. I don't know your maiden name. Wells, I said. Morgan Wells. I went back to my maiden name after the divorce. And yes, that's me. My name is Madison, she said. I was engaged to Brett. Until yesterday. My stomach dropped. I see. What happened yesterday? I found out about you, she said simply. About what he did. He never told me. He said he was divorced, that it was amicable, that you'd just grown apart. He said his ex-wife lived out of state. He never mentioned your sister. He never mentioned any of it. I wasn't surprised. Of course, Brett had lied. That's what Brett did. I'm sorry you had to find out, I said honestly. That couldn't have been easy. Someone sent me a video, Madison continued. A slideshow of text messages and photos. Evidence of his affair with your sister. I'd never seen it before. I had no idea. I confronted Brett and he admitted everything. The slideshow, the one I'd created 2 years ago, it was still out there, still circulating, still exposing them. I'd shared it with maybe 15 people, but they'd shared it with others, and those people had shared it. And now 2 years later, it was still making the rounds, still showing people exactly who Brett was. Why did you want to meet me? I asked gently. To thank you, Madison said. You saved me from making a huge mistake. If I'd married him, if I'd had children with him, and then found out what kind of person he really is, she shook her head. I don't know what I would have done. I looked at this woman, this stranger who'd been about to marry my ex-husband, who'd been saved by evidence of his betrayal. You're welcome, I said, and I really am sorry you got hurt. You didn't deserve that. Neither did you, she said. What he did to you while you were pregnant and taking care of his dying mother. I can't even imagine. You're incredibly strong. I didn't have a choice, I said. I had a daughter to protect. That makes you strong whether you want to be or not. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me she'd broken off the engagement immediately, returned the ring, blocked Brett's number. She was moving back to her hometown in Oregon to be closer to her family while she recovered. I hope you have a good life, she said as she left. You and your daughter. You both deserve happiness. Thank you, I said. I hope you do too. After she left, I stood in my doorway for a long moment, thinking. The slideshow was still out there, still protecting people from Brett, still showing the world exactly who he was. And I realized something. The revenge I'd planned, the exposure I'd orchestrated, it hadn't just been for me. It had been for every woman Brett might meet in the future, every person he might lie to, every life he might destroy. Madison was the third woman who'd reached out to me. 3 women who'd been dating or engaged to Brett, who'd received the slideshow from mutual acquaintances, who'd been saved from making the same mistake I'd made. The slideshow was a gift, a warning, a protection, and I was glad I'd made it. That evening, I picked up Lily from preschool. She ran to me with a painting she'd made, all bright colors and messy joy. Look, Mommy, she said proudly. It's us and Grandma and Charlie. Charlie was the dog. It's beautiful, baby, I said, hugging her close. We're a team, she said, like she always did. You and me and Grandma and Charlie. That's right, I said. We're a team, always. As I buckled her into her car seat, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from Amber. Morgan, I know you'll never forgive me. I know I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Worse than losing my job. Worse than losing our family. Worse than everything. everything. Brett and I didn't last 6 months after you kicked us out. Everything fell apart. And I realized too late that what I threw away was worth more than what I thought I wanted. You were the best sister anyone could ask for, and I destroyed that for a relationship that meant nothing in the end. I think about what I did every single day. The guilt eats at me. You were taking care of Patricia, sacrificing everything, and I betrayed you in the worst possible way. I know you won't respond to this. I know I don't deserve a response, but I needed you to know that you were right about everything. I was selfish and cruel, and I threw away something precious for something worthless. I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I understand now what I destroyed. I hope you and Lily are happy. You both deserve happiness. I'm sorry I can't be part of that. I'm sorry I can't be your sister anymore. I miss you every single day. I stared at the message for a long time. 2 years ago, this message might have meant something. Might have cracked open the door to forgiveness, or at least to some kind of closure. But now I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no pain, just nothing. Amber was sorry. Good for her. But her apology changed nothing, fixed nothing, restored nothing. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. Some relationships, once broken, can never be repaired. Some people don't deserve second chances, no matter how sorry they are. I deleted the message without responding. Then I deleted the unknown number so she couldn't contact me again. I got in the car and looked at Lily in the rearview mirror. She was singing to herself, some song from preschool, completely happy in her little world, innocent, protected, safe. And I drove us home, to the house that was ours, to the life we'd built from the ashes of Brett and Amber's betrayal, to the future that didn't include them or their apologies or their regrets. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. I chose survival. I chose strength. I chose building something beautiful from something broken. I chose Lily. I chose my mother. I chose the family that actually showed up, that actually cared, that actually loved without conditions or betrayals. And as I tucked Lily into bed that night, as I kissed her forehead and turned out the light, as I listened to her soft breathing in the dark, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, not happiness exactly. The wounds were still there, would probably always be there to some extent, but they'd scarred over, become part of my history rather than my present. I'd survived, more than survived. I'd rebuilt, created something new and strong and good, and that was its own kind of victory. I won, not because I destroyed them, not because they suffered, not because they apologized. I won because I refused to let what they did define me, because I protected my daughter, because I built a life worth living, because I survived their worst and came out stronger. And sometimes survival is the best revenge of all.